Alright, what is up guys? It is time for everybody's favorite video because people love tier lists for some reason. I don't know. But it's tier list time. The meta's been shaken up quite a bit recently, and yes, there's going to be a patch soon. Technically, there was a patch today, but they just fixed some servers, and it wasn't like the full actual patch. So I assume the new patch will be released probably tomorrow or Saturday or something, or whatever. But just doing this tier list based off the current hotfix of I believe 58 is the one we're on. Let me double check really quick what they just posted. Um, yeah, they just put, or no, they just posted 57.1. So this is gonna be on 57. All right, so like I said, this tier list is gonna be covering patch 57. Obviously, when I upload this video today, I'm sure there'll be a patch tomorrow, and it's gonna change something drastically, and this tier list is gonna be outdated and old and stupid. But who cares about that? That's for the future, not for now. For now, we are going to be ranking these classes. To start off with, I do think the meta has been shaken up quite a bit. I think a lot of things are viable right now. Some a bit too viable, and some are just falling a little under the radar. And we're gonna get on into all of that right now. So, normally I do this thing just down the road. However, I'm gonna start off by the best first, and that is going to be Rogue. So, Rogue is incredibly strong right now. If you don't know why, they have basically buffed Armor Pin for multiple patches in a row, on top of giving rogues new toys to play with, specifically Ice Fang. If you don't know what Ice Fang is, it is the new craftable Castellan dagger that you use a Wyvern Fang and Frost ore to craft. It has legendary base stats, unique amount of rolls, so 5 rolls, like a unique would have. And it has 1 true physical damage as a base stat, along with 10% armor pin. So obviously it is very, very bloated and has a lot of things. And then, like I said, outside of that, they have a lot more armor pen now with cobalt gear and that type of thing. Weak point was buffed, on a few occasions, not super recently, but semi-recently. And then, things like thrust, dagger mastery, all of this other stuff. All in all, Rogue is incredibly strong right now, especially, in solos or duos, but even in trios, it is still managing to be one of the best characters in the entire game. And just out of just to show you guys something here, let me go find this clip really quick. Just so you guys can see like how ridiculous Rogue is. Because I fought one the other day specifically using an Ice Fang, and it's just, let's just say it's a little silly. One second, I'm gonna have to pull up a new tab to go find this clip. Thought I could find it somewhere else, but I couldn't. Creator dashboard, content clips. Clips I've created. And right here it is. Let me pull up, grab the link. Copy link, okay, and then right here. So watch this clip. So yeah, so the rogue goes invis in this corner. I know he's here, so I can't push in, because if I push in, I'm just gonna get stabbed. I'm gonna instantly die to the rogue. So I'm just kind of sitting here taking a bunch of damage. Yeah, like I use my taunt. My taunt doesn't get a ton of value here. All right, so I see the rogue come out of invis. Ambush is gone. I see he has weak point. Look at my health bar. I get zapped right here. I'm at, what are we gonna call this? Like 85%, maybe give or take a few. In this kit, I'm about 190 HP and around 65-70% PDR, somewhere around that range. And okay, I block his weak point, and now watch this. This is just raw damage. This is no weak point, no ambush. This is just rogue damage. And look at my health bar. He gets me to literally 1 HP. This is literally with me being pocketed. Just to play this back one more time. And that was also with the judgment in there. We're back this up. This guy does his cleric doesn't heal him once. He gets like 2 ticks of sanctuary, I believe. But other than that, I'm literally being pocketed. And with a judgment on top of it, I barely beat this guy. Now, I'm just gonna say it. My class is supposed to counter him. He had no ambush, no weak point, and he literally almost beat me face to face while I'm being pocketed by a cleric. And it's like, if you want to look at that and you think there's nothing wrong, hey, happy for you. But anyways, yeah, Rogue is just way too overtuned right now. If you mess up even slightly, like, yes, this class is entirely based around, oh, if you mess up, then, I'm going to kill you. However, how it is right now is if you take even the slightest misstep, if you're not perfect for a moment, you're dead. And the problem with that is normally it was like, oh, if you're like a cleric, a ranger, a wizard, or warlock, if you misstep, you're dead. Fighter, barbarian, even bard to an extent had a little leeway. No, any of these classes, if they mess up, they are dead to rogue, and they have no counterplay. Like, think that's how much damage that guy did to me without even having weak point like on me. I blocked it. If he had hit me with weak point, I would have died in 3 hits, guaranteed. And not to mention that's a Castellan, so I'm sure most of those probably weren't. I doubt those were headshots. Most of those are probably arm and body shots. So yeah, like this class is just insanely overtuned. Um, yeah, not really much else to say there. Definitely needs to be nerfed, and hopefully it will be because right now the meta is not very fun with having to deal with super OP rogues permanently. All right, listen, I know. Okay, actually, honestly, S tier is cleric. Cleric's insane. Frontline cleric isn't as strong anymore. If it was frontline cleric, it'd probably put it at A tier, but backline caster cleric S tier. Backline caster cleric just is continuously getting buffs. I don't know why they keep buffing this when it definitely does not need to be buffed, but they like consistently do it over and over. We just recently got, the Locust Swarm change was really important. Earthquake, we got an Earthquake cast time buff, Sank cast time buff, Holy Light cast time buff. Backline cleric was already the best backliner in the entire game, so I'm not really sure why they decided to buff it, but they did. And I mean, obviously, it's just insane. And you could pair cleric with literally any comp in the game. You could take any combination of the other characters in the game, put cleric on the team, feels fine. It can fit into the melee style or the caster style, very versatile overall. Really, really strong, and it's like very close to. So the only reason that I'm not putting it up here, like please nerf with rogue, is because the thing with cleric is, it's like even when they buff things like holy light or sanctuary, it's like, yeah, was it a buff? But you don't even feel it because Cleric's been so OP for so long in terms of being a casting healer that it's like, oh, 0.5 seconds off? Like, what is, I don't even feel the change. Like, I don't. I really, that's not something I've ever noticed playing the game. Like, I know it's better, but I've never noticed it. But all right, after this, okay, honestly, this is a hot take. I think Ranger. I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, but hear me out. The thing with Ranger is they can do exactly what Rogue does. They can build a shit ton of armor pen, and they can 2 to 3 tap every character in the game. Every single one. The only downside to Ranger, as opposed to Rogue, is Ranger actually requires some skill because you have to hit your shots, so not melee swings. But if you build armor pen, the maximum amount of pen you can get while holding a winless crossbow is 68% pen. Yeah, that's right. 68% pen. Winless has a built-in 40%, and you can build another 28, I think 0.5% on top of that. So in theory, you could have 68.5% pen while holding a winless, not counting skills or perks or anything else like that. With a longbow, 48.5% pen. You could be shooting with almost 50% pen for every single shot. And that's going full cobalt gear and then rolling armor pen on your rings, your neck, and your cape, which really isn't hard to do. And I genuinely believe that is the best way to play this character. One of the biggest downsides to Ranger is that you die to Rogue incredibly easily. However, if you run the footprint perk, it's not like, it's obviously doesn't hard counter them, but it's definitely better against them. And with the recent buff to shotgun, like the 5 shot, you could literally one tap every single character in the game in melee. There is not, the only character that might live it is like a barbarian with Savage Roar. But every other character in the game, if you have built correctly on Ranger, you will one shot them if you hit them with all 5 shots. If you do like the jump tech with it, that is just a fact, 100%. If you are full pen with that shot, you will kill anybody in the game with that from 100 to 0. Unless they are in the most like 250 HP, 75% PDR god kit of all time, they're just dead. It's just not even close. And no one's really playing. Well, I mean, I guess that's not even true. People are playing Ranger, but no one's playing it in what I feel is the correct way. They're still trying to build this like Brave Hunter, Wanderer's attire, like Dex, like chest legs build, and they're not really rolling for armor pen, and then they're kind of losing to fighters. But if you just build this class correctly, I promise you this shit's OP. We have seen I've run into a few people doing it. I ran into a double or triple ranger, I believe, day before yesterday, and pushing was like the most impossible thing. The only reason I ever managed to get onto them was because they missed. They started missing their shots. However, one longbow shot and one windless crossbow shot from 2 of them, just from like one shot the other, brought me under half HP. Shit's insane. I'm not even talking headshots, like body shots. Shit is insane. All right. Following up after that, I I'm thinking maybe Wizard. I think Wizard is probably not as good as the rest of these things. Wizard's strong. Like, don't get me wrong, Wizard's very strong. I would maybe put it like top of A tier, low S tier. I think the problem with Wizard is it's not just that it's strong, it's that Wizard is just kind of like, I'm gonna sit here and you can't push me. Ranger isn't even like that bad about that because yeah, Ranger can set up traps and yeah, they can shoot you, but it's a lot easier to push into a Ranger than a Wizard, in my opinion. Obviously, I mean, this is coming from a fighter's point of view. However, I'm also a fighter that plays like 70% MR builds, and I'm still saying this. So, Wizard just has like way too many like anti-push tools, I feel like. You have slow, you have, lightning strikes, fireballs, chain lightnings, you have all this bullshit that's like, if I get to you, I'm gonna like, or if you run at me, like, yeah, you might make it to me, but I'm going to cook you. Like, you're gonna burn half your heals getting here. Especially if you consider things like Fire Mastery reducing anti-heal. Also, I shouldn't even need to say this because I always do for some reason. This is a trios tier list. So, yeah, trios. It's not solos or duos. This is trios. But yeah, Wizard's just like really, really strong. And how the game shapes up is there's a lot of just holding rooms because people play Rogue and Ranger so much. A lot of people don't want to push, and in these like small chokes where it's like you're staring at one team, they're staring at you. This is where Wizard thrives. They just sit there, they try to weave spells around a corner because Wizard has some of the best burst damage. Like that, and they can actually kill people. Wizard just ends up being like one of the best characters around there. And I've been in plenty of fights where I'm playing with like Apollo and we fight another Wizard team, or I've seen them do it, where literally it's just two Wizards casting each other around a corner while Cleric sits behind them holding a spell, and whoever their third is literally just sits there and does nothing. Like maybe you have a bard playing songs or like trying to get a shot in here or there with a crossbow, but most of the time it's literally just two Wizards casting at each other. I think Wizard's incredibly strong though, and yeah, just very, very solid class. Like I said, overall, the reason it's at S tier is I think it's just a bit too strong. I think you could bring it down slightly. And also something else is with the recent meditation buff. The meditation buff is actually pretty big. I think a lot of people are memeing on it. But if you can run 5 spell overload, pop meditate, and you literally get like every single charge of every spell back. So it's like huge for not having to reset after fights. The big downside to 5 spell overload is it doesn't let you run all the spells you want, so you can't run things like light orb. However, if you're running with a bard, light orb isn't necessary. So is what it is. There's a give and take, which I think that's actually a really, really strong build right now. If people are playing multiple casters, it's just really, really hard to deal with because there's pretty much just no downtime for them. Like, if you're playing like double wizard or something, or like a cleric wizard, like the cleric holds, wizard backs off, meditates, 5 seconds later, they have every spell back and they're ready to keep fighting. Followed after wizard, bard. Honestly, I'd probably put bard, I don't know, maybe a little bit above them, maybe a little behind them. It's kind of iffy. Bard's still strong. I think bard's still very, very good. The utility it provides is obviously still very strong. Other than that, the problem with Bard is they kind of lose to these other classes over here. Like, yeah, they can beat Wizard, but Wizard can also kill you. Rogue, if you don't perma Din or perma Shriek, they will insta kill you. Bard can't push a Ranger, and I mean Bard is a worse support than a Cleric. So overall, I think Bard is still very strong. I would put it better than like A tier, but I don't know. I'm kind of like in between on Bard and Wizard. I think both these classes are incredibly good. I think these are both these are probably pretty interchangeable. Like I said, I do think they're both very, very strong though. But yeah, Bard still does the same thing it always has, but the problem is Bard just has a new threat to worry about in Rogue and Ranger. You can't just like run around and do whatever you want anymore. You kind of have to play more of a support class, and with recent buffs, Fighter's a bit scarier to Bard now. So yeah. Other than that, not much to say. Fighter's next. I think Fighter's A tier. Overall, the changes don't really do much. Like, I know a lot of people like freaking out, like, oh my god, Swift 10% more move speed. Oh my god, Weapon Mastery doesn't have damage reduction. That's pretty fucking irrelevant. A lot of people are like, oh my god, the Rondel Survival Bow build is so broken. The 10% damage buff is making it so OP. No, it's not, bro. The 10% damage buff is only like the 10% damage reduction on weapons that hit for hardly any damage at all. Anyways, doesn't even really matter. You're losing what, like 2 or 3? It's like 2 or 3 damage, like total, like not like that's like after scaling and anything, maybe per hit, like, or that's how much you would lose with 10%. Like, it's not even that much because weapons hit for so little anyways. The reason those builds are so strong is because they apply true damage really well. That's literally the whole basis of the build. I swing fast, I apply true damage. Haha. Like, that's the fighter build. Other than that, I think in trios, unironically, so at first I was like, okay, Morningstar is definitely the best fighter weapon now, but with the rise of rogues being so prominent, I don't think it is. I think get the Red Falchion. Problem with Morningstar is really, really bad sour spots, whereas if you're swinging the weapon and people are too close, you're going to hit them with the hilt, and you're going to do like, I don't even know, it's like 60% damage or something, or 70%. It's a lot of reduced damage, and the weapon's not that fast, and it has verticals rather sweep, so it's a lot harder to hit rogues. But if you're on Falchion, you don't really have that problem. You have these horizontal sweeps, and your sour spots aren't nearly as bad. So if you have Rogue on you, then you're with a Falchion, you could kill them. With a Morningstar, you usually won't. I've had multiple fights recently where if I had a Morningstar and not a Falchion, I would have died to a Rogue. And then if I'm running a Falchion over Morningstar, I'm not going to run Weapon Mastery because it's not worth it to run for a longbow over a crossbow. When I could run Sword Mastery, Barricade, Counterattack, any of those perks, they're just way better. So overall, I feel like the Weapon Mastery buff wasn't that big for Trios Fighter. At least, I mean, that's been my own personal opinion on the matter. And the Swift Movement Speed buff, it's pretty small. In the normal fighter build, it's like barely 1% move speed, which is like, yeah, it's something, but it's not game breaking. It's not, meta changing. It's not making fighters significantly faster than anyone else. But the thing is fighters playable right now. That's the biggest thing. Fighter is very playable. And like I know, what's funny is like a lot of people, whenever fighter is like okay and like good and playable, people like look at it and be like, oh my god, fighter's so broken, it needs to be nerfed, and it doesn't. Like the biggest problem with playing fighter right now is you lose to rogue. Like that clip I showed you, a geared rogue will beat you, just 99% of the time. If that cleric had been pocket healing his rogue, I literally would have lost to him 1v1, which is just hilarious to think about. And if, God forbid, if they pop out and they weak point you and you don't hit like insane blocks, you're just going to die in like 3 hits to anyone. If your gear is not literal bis, you will die to them. And that's just how it is. And HR is being dominated by these like range anti-push comps like Rogue, Ranger, Wizard, Warlock, Cleric, like all this bullshit that makes fighter just not it's so hard to play because then you want to run like taunt second win, but then like, oh, I have all these range characters, I want to run sprint, oh wait, I can't even catch them with sprint, why am I running it? So it just kind of feels awkward. A lot of the fights you end up just kind of like running around chasing people, and it feels pretty fucking shit. After fighter Warlock, I think Warlock is still incredibly strong. Yes, it did get nerfed. However, Warlock was never a burst character. Like they lost some damage on Curse of Pain, which to be fair is big because it's their main damage source. But like I said, Warlock was never going to be a burst killing character. The nerfs really just bring it a little bit more in line and make it feel slightly better to fight against. But this class still does solid damage, and they're still very, very hard to kill. This is still the most skillless class in the entire game. They have, every whatever, however long it is, they have a fucking panic button that's like, oh, I pop Phantomize, can't do anything to me now. So the class is still super annoying. And in the anti-push meta, Hydra is the king of abilities. Being able to tech Rogue Stealth or any other bullshit like that, being able to peek for people like hiding around corners. Warlock is king in the anti-push meta. However, outside of all of that, they're worse than every other character here, I think. Maybe like slightly better than Fighter, but other than that, I don't think Warlock is super. Warlock really is just an annoying class right now. I think the thing is like, yeah, I don't think it's like particularly great, but I still think it needs to be nerfed. Like, I would put it up here, not even because it's broken, but because of how annoying it is to fight. If you literally give a Warlock 2 seconds in a fight, they can pop a Hydra down and life drain it, and they'll be back to full HP. Doesn't matter any of the damage you did. If they Phantomize and you don't chase them down to the Phantomize, you get them 1 HP, they pop out, Hydra, life drain, back in the fight, full HP. That is just something no other class can do, and they can do it without any sort of penalty, basically. They have no spell charges or nothing like that, and it's incredibly annoying to fight. So in terms of actual balance, they're here, but in terms of like what I want them to get nerfed. This class is so unfun to fight. It's so unfun. This is literally like this class right here, you fight it, and it doesn't matter what it literally doesn't matter what class you are. It's not fun. Oh, you're a rogue, which is like the best counter to it. Okay, if they just Hydra every single where they go, you can never do anything. Oh, you're a wizard? Well, you better kill them in your spells. Or you better kill them in your first burst of spells, or they're going to run you out of spells and they're gonna kill you. Ranger's good against them. I mean, it's still annoying because Ranger, like, you kind of have to get closer to them to kill them or insta kill them like a triple shot because otherwise they're just going to keep peeking corners, healing, like, heal peek you. And if they ever poke you down, they can push you. Cleric is like, unless you're like the solos you toast build where you're really fast with spells, Cleric's useless against Warlock. And Bard's like the exact same thing as Fighter or Barbarian. They just run you around and kite you. Um, so after this, I feel like Barbarians. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on Barbarian. I don't think. See, the thing is, I don't think Barbarian's bad. I think it's kind of fine. The problem is, it just in the meta, it's not that great. With everybody playing like these random bullshit, like anti-push comps and like kite comps, Barbarian just kind of falls like short because you can't really run Rage on Barbarian because it's just not very good. You really want Warcry Savage Roar, and if you fight frontline comps, it's very strong. But other than that, it's just not that great. So yeah, I'd probably put Barbarian like B tier. I think Barbarian and Druid are pretty close to the worst in the game. The only thing about Druid that's slightly better though is Druid and Gigabis gear actually is still very useful. Barbarian and Gigabis gear doesn't really change. It's still pretty bad. It doesn't really do much. However, Druid has been actually, honestly, I'd put like this. I'd do like this probably. I think Barbarian's like really fucking unplayable. Like I don't even think the class is bad. I think the meta just makes it not really playable. But Druid, like I said, in really BIS gear, this class is good. Outside of that, though, it is entirely useless. You don't really do damage. You're not really threatening. You don't have spells. You can't even like the caster build that Posh used to play, like the backline caster. You can't even play that anymore because the class just doesn't do anything. You don't have enough spell uses. You have like three walls, two treants. Your heals don't even scale, which is pretty bad. Overall, this class has kind of just been the result of too many hard nerfs over and over. I don't even think they needed to. I think after they nerfed Ruby Silver Curacao Druid, I don't even think they needed to nerf it after that. Like, yeah, nerfing the treants and the walls was good because it nerfed rats, but it also nerfed like actual Druid players, which ended up kind of putting them like in a really awkward spot. Other than that, though, I'm sure they'll get buffed soon again because this class is basically unplayable right now in a real setting. Like I said, unless you're running like some Giga Abyss, like 50 strength, 50 agi, shit that's like insanely expensive and like all legendary gear. But anyways, that's probably gonna wrap it up for me. I would say anything above A tier is worth playing. Like I said, obviously Warlock is not actually a broken character. It's really annoying, but it's not like super broken, right? It's a good class, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's gonna wrap it up for me. Overall, solid tier list. I think. I know a lot of you are gonna disagree with me. I know Ranger, Wizard, and Warlock are obviously gonna be highly debated. Some idiot Rogue players are probably like, man, Rogue doesn't need nerf. Rogue's balanced. But that's beside the point. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.